All right, let's just dive right into this. Welcome back to The Explainer. Where we take these massive, complex behavioral frameworks and break them down so you can actually use them in your everyday life. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating personality theme. We are deconstructing what's known as the includer. If you've ever wondered why certain people just naturally act like the social glue in your office or maybe your family, this explainer is going to connect all those dots for you. Because understanding this stuff, it's not just some fun personality quiz, it is literally the bedrock of building dynamic, functional teams.
But before we get into the nuts and bolts of it all, I want you to think about something. Have you ever felt left out? Seriously, take a second and put yourself right back in a moment where you were on the outside looking in. Maybe it was an email thread you were accidentally dropped from, or a big strategy meeting where nobody asked for your input. Or, hey, maybe it goes all the way back to being picked last in gym class. It's a visceral, universally awful feeling, right? We are biologically wired for connection, so being ostracized actually registers in our brains a lot like physical pain. That sting, that feeling of exclusion, that is exactly what our topic today actively works to eradicate.
Because in any workplace or community, exclusivity and silos, they are the ultimate villains. As our source material brilliantly puts it, cliques are breeding grounds for cliched thinking. I mean, think about it. When groups close themselves off, when they stop letting new people and fresh perspectives in, the ideas just go stale. It becomes a giant echo chamber. The thinking gets cliched because everyone's just nodding along with everyone else. To build stronger teams and truly innovative ideas, you absolutely have to burst that bubble. You have to break down the cliques. And that brings us to the hero of our explainer.
Section 1. Meet the includer.
So what is an includer? Well, they're driven by this deep, almost instinctual desire to make others feel accepted, valued, and really part of the group. Picture the last time you were at a massive networking event, or maybe one of those chaotic corporate retreats. Most people, right, they gravitate straight to the center of the room looking for the VIPs. The includer does the exact opposite. They are scanning the edges. They naturally spot the person standing alone, scrolling awkwardly on their phone, and they intentionally walk over to pull them into the conversation. Their fundamental belief every single day is that absolutely everyone matters.
To really grasp their role, think of the includer as a bridge builder. They aren't just polite, they're active architects of togetherness. They are deliberately breaking down barriers to make sure everyone has a seat at the table. Imagine two departments that historically refuse to talk to each other. Let's say sales and marketing. If a team is fractured like that, a strong includer naturally pushes back against those silos. They're going to be the ones setting up the cross-departmental lunches. They build the bridge to bring outsiders into the fold, basically forcing integration where there used to be division.
Section 2. Value in team contributions.
Now, includers bring massive value to any organization. We're talking acceptance, unity, and a ton of diversity. Because they are constantly looking out for who feels left behind, they act like an engine for collaboration. They make sure a really wide array of voices gets heard. But, and this is crucial, this immense value comes with some strict requirements. To actually function, they absolutely need respectful environments. They thrive in team-oriented roles where community is the priority. And maybe most importantly, they desperately need dedicated time for self-care. Think about it, constantly building bridges, absorbing other people's anxieties, managing the emotional inclusion of a whole office. That takes a heavy toll. Without a healthy space to recharge, they are gonna burn out, for sure.
Section 3. Strengths in the balcony.
When an includer is operating in their balcony, which basically means when this trait is shining at its absolute best and most productive, they are a literal powerhouse of positivity. They are so deeply compassionate, incredibly welcoming, and just phenomenal team players. But their real secret weapon, it's their massive capacity for people. Imagine managing a huge, sprawling project group where everyone has wildly different backgrounds and clashing opinions. An average person would be exhausted just trying to wrangle all those personalities. But an includer, they don't get drained by it, they are actually energized by it. They instinctively stand up for the marginalized, making sure that a person's differences never stop them from contributing.
Section 4. The basement and blind spots. But listen, every single superpower has a vulnerability. And here is how a genuinely great intention can tragically become a massive bottleneck. An includer starts with this highly noble desire. Let's include absolutely everyone in this decision. But logically, that leads directly to pulling way too many opinions into what should be a simple process. The inevitable result? Total unnecessary complexity. Just think about trying to pick a new software vendor for your team. If you can't make a move without consulting 20 different people because you don't want anyone feeling left out, rapid decision-making just goes right out the window. Consensus becomes a trap, and the whole project stalls out.
And because of that intense, unyielding drive for belonging, includers develop some pretty distinct blind spots. They can easily become way too trusting or even naive, just assuming everyone else operates with their level of goodwill. They also frequently overextend themselves, sacrificing their own time to help others. But the irony here is kind of fascinating. Because they value open doors so highly, they can actually become incredibly judgmental and harsh toward groups they think are exclusive. They hate cliques so much that they literally become hostile toward them. And despite all their outward focus on bringing others in, if they ever find themselves left off an invitation list, they are deeply, profoundly hurt.
Section 5. Contrasting the includer theme. Sometimes the absolute best way to understand a concept is by seeing how it rubs up against another one. Take the theme of harmony, for example. A person driven by harmony basically says, I work for the agreement of those on the inside. If there are 5 people in a boardroom, the harmony trait just wants to keep the peace and avoid conflict among those 5 people. The includer, though, they say, I work for the acceptance of those on the outside. They're constantly looking at the perimeter. The includer doesn't just care about keeping the peace in the room, they literally want to stop the meeting entirely just to make sure everyone in the building got an invitation to pull up a chair in the first place.
Let's look at this through a classic business metaphor: getting people on the bus. An includer is indiscriminately accepting of everyone on the bus. Their philosophy is beautifully simple. Get on the bus. We'll find a seat for you. You belong here simply because you exist. Now, contrast this with another theme called the maximizer. The maximizer is discriminately selective about who gets on the bus to begin with. So, while the includer focuses on broad expansion and participation without filtering, the maximizer acts like a strict bouncer. They filter heavily to make sure only the absolute top performers get a seat, prioritizing elite output over broad inclusion.
So, if you were building a team tomorrow, how would you balance this bus? Because you clearly need the warmth, the diversity, and the cohesive glue of the includer. You absolutely need that bridge builder to break down the silos and stop that cliched thinking from ruining your innovation. But on the flip side, you also have to manage the basement of this trait. You cannot let the desire to include everyone completely paralyze your organization's ability to make swift, difficult decisions. Finding that sweet spot between extreme inclusion and necessary selectiveness, that is the ultimate hallmark of brilliant leadership. You really have to know when to open the doors wide and when to close them so you can actually get to work.
And that wraps up our deep dive into the includer theme on The Explainer. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really hope this helped you not only understand the behavioral science behind this trait, but also equipped you to spot it in the wild. As you head back into your offices, your schools, or your communities, take a look around. Try to find the bridge builders. Notice the people who are intentionally widening the circle, and maybe see where you can be a little more inclusive yourself. But as you do, I want to leave you with this. If we prioritize including absolutely everyone in every single thing, does inclusion eventually lose its meaning? Keep discovering, keep activating, and I'll catch you next time.